Hello everyone. In the series of our discussion of the drama Macbeth, we have seen four acts of this drama and now we have reached to Act 5th. The major action that took place in Act 4 is that after killing Banquo, Macbeth is still not feeling himself secure, and that's why he goes to meet the three witches again. The witches again made few prophecies about Macbeth, and these are: they warn him against Macduff. They ask Macbeth to be bold, bloody, and resolute. Means now the witches asking Macbeth to be more cruel or ruthless in his behavior. They also tell Macbeth that he should be afraid of no man born of woman. They said about Macbeth that he should not fear till Birnam Wood comes to High Dunsinane Hill. When Macbeth wants to know about the children of Banquo, the witches don't reply clearly, and this made Macbeth feel disgusted. On the other hand, when Macbeth comes to know that Macduff has gone to England to seek help, Macbeth decides to kill Lady Macduff and her children. And in this way, he killed Lady Macbeth and her children. Now, Macduff has reached to England, and there he meets Malcolm, the elder son of deceased King Duncan. Malcolm tells Macduff that he is ready to attack Scotland with the army of 10,000 soldiers, and this made Macduff feel very happy. And that's the action that took place in Act 4. Now we'll start our discussion of Act 5. Act 5 starts with the famous sleepwalking scene. It is in sleep that Lady Macbeth loses all control over herself. The doctor has watched her for 2 nights. The doctor wants to know whether Lady Macbeth utters something while walking in sleep. The doctor sees Lady Macbeth walking in sleep. Her eyes, though open, have a vacant expression in them. She continually rubs her hands as though she is washing them. Then she cries out, "Out, damned spot, out, I say," referring to the imaginary stains of blood on her hands. She gives an imaginary description of hell and says, "Hell is murky." Then she rebukes her husband for his refusal to go back to Duncan's chamber. Immediately after, she astonishingly says that one would never have thought that the old man would bleed so much. Again, gazing upon her hands, she wants to know whether her hands will never be clean. She again turns to her husband and says that all the perfumes of Arabia will not remove the smell of blood from her hands. The doctor now begins to suspect the truth. The doctor and the gentlewoman are horrified at these alarming confessions of Lady Macbeth. She urges to Macbeth to wash his hands, put on the nightgown, and not to look dismayed. Immediately after, she says that Banquo is in his grave and cannot rise out of it. She again thinks of Duncan's murder and says that the deed is done. Now she asks her husband to go to bed. The doctor asks the waiting woman to keep watch on Lady Macbeth, lest she should attempt suicide. Several Scottish lords assembled to join Malcolm. They deserted Macbeth. They are now marching towards Birnam Wood, where they would meet Malcolm and Seward. The lords of Scotland, who still keep his company, do so out of fear only and not out of love. The tyrant himself is suffering inwardly because all the faculties of his mind are employed in self-condemnation. Macbeth has fortified the great castle of Dunsinane. Some say that Macbeth has become mad. He hopes to protect himself from the enemy by shutting himself in the castle. Hearing that almost all lords have deserted him, Macbeth says that he does not care if all of them desert him. He has nothing to fear until Birnam Wood moves to Dunsinane. He is not afraid of Malcolm, as he is born of a woman, and no one born of a woman can prevail against him. At that time, a servant comes and informs Macbeth that the strength of enemy's troop is 10,000. Hearing this news, Macbeth is disturbed and scornfully sends the servant away. The servant goes away and Macbeth calls Satan to his presence. As he waits for Satan, Macbeth speaks to himself. He says that he does not care to live longer. He is unloved, hated, feared, and cursed by all around him. In his dejection and excitement, Macbeth shouts for Satan again. Satan comes and confirms that report for the servant. Macbeth wants to put on his armor and fight to the last. When Satan tells him that the enemy is still at a distance, he orders to send more horses and hang those who talk of fear. He persists in putting on the armor. At this stage, the doctor comes and tells Macbeth that the disease of Lady Macbeth is not of the body, but of the mind, and so the doctor shows his inability to cure her. Then, disdainfully, Macbeth tells the doctor to throw away all his medicines, for they are worthless. In despair, he asks the doctor if he can diagnose the disease of this land and name the remedy which will restore it to its former wholesome condition. He again orders to bring his armor. He assures himself that he has nothing to fear until Birnam Wood moves to Dunsinane. The English army led by Malcolm and Seward is at Birnam Wood. The Scotch nobles who have deserted Macbeth join them. Malcolm orders that every soldier should take a branch of tree from Birnam Wood and hold it before him. In this manner, the army will march forward. Malcolm did it to hide the number of his soldiers, but when the forces of Malcolm move forward with those branches, it appears that Birnam is riding against Dunsinane. They all know that Macbeth will stay at Dunsinane Castle, which will defy a siege. Malcolm is now sure of Macbeth's ruin. Macduff, however, is more cautious and advises industrious soldiering to secure a victory. He mildly rebukes Malcolm for his optimism and advises him to waste no time in idle conjecture. Seward also agrees with Macduff. Macbeth has shut himself in Dunsinane Castle. At this moment, he hears loud shrieks of women. Satan goes out and comes back to tell him that Queen is dead. Macbeth orders more flags to be hung on the outward wall of his castle. Macbeth has become indifferent to life. He speaks out a desponding philosophy and says that life is meaningless. Life is like a brief candle, a walking shadow, a poor player who plays his part on the stage and then disappears forever. Life is a tale told by an idiot without any meaning in it. At this time, a messenger comes and tells Macbeth that he had seen Birnam Wood moving towards the castle. Macbeth does not believe it, but the messenger says that he himself can see it moving. Now he is reminded of the prophecy of the witches. If Birnam Wood is coming to Dunsinane, he should go out and meet the enemy in the open. He finds no way out but to die fighting like a warrior. He asks his men to be ready for the final battle. Malcolm's army comes near Macbeth's castle. Malcolm orders his soldiers to throw away the branches of the trees with which they are hiding themselves. He sends his son and young Seward to hide the first line, while Malcolm and Macduff will head the other. Then the trumpets are sounded as a proclamation of the battle. Now Macbeth finds himself surrounded on all sides. He cannot flee, so he determines to fight to the last. Macbeth's last hope is that no man born of a woman can harm him. The young Seward fights with Macbeth and is killed. Now Macbeth becomes more confident. Macduff comes in search of Macbeth. He says if Macbeth has already been killed, the ghost of his wife and his children will make him restless. Now Malcolm and old Seward join Macduff. They have the castle surrounded to them. Now Malcolm and the old Seward enter the castle. The enemy offered little resistance. Now Macbeth sees his castle surrendered. He thinks of killing himself, but soon he scorns at the idea. Macduff is looking for Macbeth. Macduff and Macbeth meet and fall upon each other. Macbeth is afraid of Macduff. Macbeth warns Macduff that he cannot harm him as he was born of a woman. But Macbeth is shocked to learn that Macduff was not born naturally, but was from his mother's womb untimely raped. Macbeth's heart sinks down. At first he refuses to fight with Macduff, but soon he becomes firm and says that he will not yield to Macduff. Macbeth is full of courage at the humiliation done to him by Macduff. They fight and go out. Malcolm and old Seward and others have assembled. Old Seward hears of the heroic death of his young son. Macduff now re-enters with the head of Macbeth, whom he has killed. The nobles and the soldiers all rejoice in freedom. Macduff greets Malcolm as the King of Scotland. The new king creates thegns and kinsmen. He declares rewards to his followers and punishment to his enemies. He invites all his well-wishers to his coronation at Scone. And in this way, this is the end of the discussion of our drama Macbeth.